Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of
Ghetto.
My name is Hans,
I'm Edward.
and we are your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or until one of us gets our pilot's license and just travels the world in like 80 days or less.
I feel like we've had the pilot license one before, but
maybe,
you know what?
Maybe,
but you know what?
Whatever.
I'm still down with it because I know we spoke about professions a little while back about how if you could have the knowledge of everything, what would it be? And I ended up going down like the plastic surgery route. But I've also always had an interest in flying. And for a very long time when I was young, my parents actually thought that I was going to be a pilot. So just a little bit of a tidbit of information there. So yes, I'm happy with that. To our wonderful Gileadites, welcome back to your favorite podcast for everything related to gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle. News, reviews, previews, and discussion, all wrapped up in a wonderful, geeky
black box.
Oh, okay. So
okay,
you're going with the pilot theme, sure. At least it would be indestructible, right? If there was ever an issue, this episode of Gilead would be preserved.
Exactly. At least this one.
At least this one, right? Never mind any of the other ones. If you are new, we do hope that you enjoy the ride. This week, Edward and I will hopefully be discussing the content we've had for 3 weeks now, which we are still wholly unprepared with. But
this is the shit. We've had 2 weeks to prepare this one episode, and
spot on. All right. Okay, before we begin, we're going to go straight into our weekly question, Eduardo. Oh, wait, hang on, no, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Welcome to Gilead 74, Season 2, Episode 32. Edward, how are you doing?
I am good. I woke up with a massive headache. That subsided a little bit, but otherwise I am well, actually, for a
That's
change.
Good. That's very good. Yeah.
What about you?
I'm also doing a lot better, thank you. So, the family had COVID and I was the only caretaker because I had been vaccinated and so on and so forth. I'm happy to report that everyone is doing a lot better to the point where I actually have some time to myself. So I'm still feeling utterly exhausted, but every day a little bit better. And I'm very happy and very grateful and blessed that they are doing as well as they are already doing. So here's hoping that they will continue to get better and stronger. And before you know it, the plans we originally had will once again be back on track. Plans which we haven't discussed for those of you who are new.
Yeah.
These are,
someone will be like, huh?
These are like personal in the background to discuss at a later stage plans. Anyway, so now finally, as I skipped ahead earlier, we are finally at the weekly question. I almost feel that should have a jingle. Almost feel that it should have a jingle. But I'm glad that it doesn't anymore.
it should have a theme song. Welcome to the weekly question.
That's so good. Okay, well, on three. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Welcome to the weekly question. Oh shit, there's lag.
Yeah, lag's gonna be.
Okay, we'll have to record that separately, and maybe we'll throw it in. Actually, you Gileadites, let us know what you think. If you want us to have a jingle, we will make one. All right. Edward and our fellow Gileadites, are you ready? Now, as always, take heed of what is said and give us your first gut reaction when you hear the question. Here it goes. I'm making it out to be like the $1 million question.
Like it's some big, huge-ass question.
All right. What is a misconception people have about your profession? This one, I think, is honestly a really great question. Because I think a lot of people will have wonderful stories to tell about this, about what people think when you tell them that you're a certain thing, right? Mm-hmm. So Edward and I think we're our professions are very similar, somewhat different, but similar. So Edward,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, because of the similarity, rather, if you don't mind, I'm gonna change it ever so slightly. So rather than you answering and me answering, because it's going to be very similar, I want to turn this into a bit of a discussion. So yes, you'll give me your answer and I'll give you mine, and then we'll talk about it. Obviously, it's a little bit different to previous questions. If you get what I'm saying. I mean, basically it's the normal Gettle format, but for the question.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, 2 weeks back, we had like half an hour discussion about
that's because the question went into it actually influenced the content. Do you remember?
Yeah. Anyway, we just started ranting.
So if you're new to Gettle, and for those of you who are seasoned listeners, you'll just have to listen to this spiel again, but rather take it as a friendly reminder. So Edward and I, for all intents and purposes, are technically considered journalists, and myself also a content creator as well as a professional marketer. But we'll get to that, a little bit later in this discussion. And as a result, we have been writing consistently for Vamers for a very long time now, almost a decade each, and we have experience in the field. We have a lot of products that we review, and we go to press events, and we often have access to companies and individuals, and it's what journalists do.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Edward, tell me, what is a misconception that people have about your profession when you tell them what it is you do?
Okay, so it's this is a multi-layered answer.
Yeah. Just prepare yourself, because the rants are about to begin.
Just might actually. So mostly it depends who I tell and what exactly I say. So like if I tell a random person on the street, let's say the petrol jockey or whatever, because I used to know one. We used to work together while I was delivering pizzas. Anyway, when I tell them I'm a journalist, they're like, oh, so you go out to the riots, and is the job dangerous? And I'm like, no, not that kind of journalist. I'm a games journalist, okay? I know that dreaded term, the games journalist.
Games, yeah.
If I tell my folks, it's just a matter of, get a real job. Or it's either that, or, so that means I'm free 90% of my day.
Yeah.
And then when I tell someone young or someone who is somewhat tech savvy, it's always like, oh, so you play games for a living. It must be nice. Why are you complaining about playing games for a living? And I'm always like, that's only 20% of the job, if that much. And
you hit the nail on the head, specifically with that last one. Oh, you're a games journalist? Oh, you review games? Oh, how nice. How easy.
Yeah, like,
I wish I could do that with my time. No, bitch. You don't know the half of it.
Yeah,
okay?
it's...
and
not only...
I'm going to talk a little bit about that now.
The thing is, it's not only like, oh, nice. It's the fact that it's kind of ruined games for me in a way. Like,
yes, yeah,
you can't look at games the same way anymore. If you're so used to looking at game critically and analytically, it's difficult to sit down and just chill with a game.
You can't enjoy it anymore because it's very simple. Now when you pick up any game, and you decide, oh, cool, I'm going to lose myself into this, and let's assume it's not. You haven't been tasked with reviewing the title, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The years of training your brain to critically think about the gameplay, the narrative elements, does everything work, really means that the moment you pick up that controller, you are spotting flaws. And I don't mean that in a way of, like, it's not a games journalist's, purpose in life to pick out flaws and pick on them. But what ends up happening is you are so much more acutely aware of when something goes wrong than if you were just playing the game for pure pleasure. Because now you're like, oh, you know what? Like, just last night, I won't mention the game, but I booted up this game that interested me, and I thought, oh, let's just give it a shot. and I was playing, and then I went into the menus to upgrade my character, and I was like, this is shit. now, not because, I mean, it's somewhat accessible, and it's good enough for what its purpose is. But given how I've had to review games professionally for over 10 years, I look at this and I'm like, okay, fine. This might be an indie title, but there is no excuse for how poor this user interface is.
Yeah.
Just as an example. And then all of a sudden, I'm now critiquing the game the whole time. And then as I'm playing, and I'm like, why is this happening? This narrative is poor. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sure, people might have these thoughts anyway when you're playing. It's just on a wholly different level because now you're consistently thinking about it. And I think what Edward was trying to convey just now, I think this is probably the biggest thing about it, is how mentally taxing it is. So instead of just enjoying it for what it is, and don't get me wrong, we still enjoy games. It's just different because we're so used to critically analyzing something that when that happens, you're consistently doing it. So even though you are enjoying it, you're still on a subconscious level analyzing it from a critical perspective. And that is tiring. That is taxing, and immediately you're thinking of things that you can spin in your mind in terms of, could I make an article out of this? Even though you might not have been tasked to do so. You're consistently working all the time. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, Edward, because especially that part about how people are like, oh, that's so cool and so easy. No, it's not. Because one of the biggest issues that Edward and I see, and we see it a lot in our industry, especially with these new up-and-comers who have so much hubris that you just look at them and you're like, really, you don't know what you're in for, but they think they're the shit. And what they will often do, and this is all because it's what happens when you're young and naive and you don't have the skill and the experience behind you, is they will explain and tell you about the game instead of critically looking at the game and then taking you on a journey of why it's good and bad. So in many ways, like when you read one of these young journalist articles, it comes across as them like describing the trailer.
It's basically what children would do if they were told at school to write 1,000-word essay. And all they can do is 300 words. So now they're padding it with just explanations of everything, which number one, a review is not. A review is an opinion about your feelings about the game. Correct. With substantiated solutions and or comparisons.
It's critique. It's actual critique.
It's a critique.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's kind of, I guess in that sense, it's kind of ruined other reviews for me as well.
Look, the thing is, everyone has to start somewhere, right? So that's not what we're saying here. We're not saying don't do it. But writing is a skill. Yes, some people are talented and have an innate ability to just write very well. They can put words together and structures, but even then, they may not be able to put anything together cohesively. So writing is very much a skill. And the more you do it and the longer period of time that you do it in, you should improve. More so if you have a very good editor on your side.
Yes.
Now, I bring this up because a lot of the institutions, not just in our country, but also abroad, have a very offhanded approach to content, where a young and aspiring writer will produce something and the publication will barely even look at it and just publish it.
Yeah.
It's a problem because like we've seen some of the biggest and most reputable sites in our country literally publish an article that looks like it was written by a high schooler. Each to their own, but I just feel that we do have a bit of an editing problem in our country, at least from a games media perspective. There are incredible sites out there. And I would like to think that ours is one of them, whereby, sure, we might take a bit longer to produce content, but I do feel that our content in general is a cut above most. And that's because, and I don't want to put myself up on a platter or anything like that, but I just mean that I'm a classically trained editor and research scholar. So I have that, training to actively not just edit something, but groom someone while I'm editing them. And I'd like to think in many ways that Edward has learned a lot from me over the last several years. And the few writers who are now on board with us are also learning. And I've actually had not just Edward, but others as well say, thank you so much, because this is the first publication that they've written for, which has actually gone in depth into the writing and critiqued it to the point where they now understand how they could be writing better. And for me, that's quite sad, because what then are the other editors doing? If you as an editor are not taking the time to go through the work of your writers to help them improve, then what are you doing as an editor? Because an editor's that is part of an editor's job. It's not just to look at the thing and be like, oh, that's okay, and let's publish it. That's not okay. We're not going to publish it. You literally, it's about taking an active interest in this writer, all right, and grooming their voice, helping them to flesh out their own voice that they have, and to make them produce the best work possible. That's
exactly.
Sorry, that went off a bit of a tangent there, but
well, that's you're spot on. The thing is, getting back to the quality of writing, number one, it's mainly because of the editor. Even myself, constantly, it's a constant learning process. I'm not an editor, obviously. I'm a writer, and I'd like to believe that I write decent things.
Let's just backtrack a little bit there. So, I have often spoken about Edward to other people as the junior editor, and that's because, and Edward will attest to this, I have on occasion been like, please look at this first before I look at it, because I want to get your opinion on it, because I want Edward to get to that skill set, that level, you know? Sorry, Ed, I just thought I'd say that. I don't want you to put yourself down. You are quite talented, so I want you to...
No, fine. I'm not fishing for compliments. I'm just stating that essentially what it comes down to is learning and improving constantly, every single day. And whether you're a writer or an editor, the issue is that editing does not happen most of the time. And then people see, let's say a total newcomer to this industry. They see this writing on this website and they like it a lot, whether it's our website or someone else's. And then they start the writing process. Fine. They ask us if they can write for Famers. They ask fellow websites if they can write for them, and then it's a matter of just writing whatever they can and then dropping off of the face of this earth within a few months. And we've seen that so many times because people think writing is easy. They think this job is easy, and that leads me into the next thing that. Something else about games journalism is that you have to maneuver the political shitstorm that is this industry daily.
Landscape is it?
There we go.
Your wording was fine, but
exactly.
Let's keep it civil.
Because
Edward is spot on. It's hurricane weather constantly. Yeah.
And you just constantly need to either handle emails. You need to be nice with people. Actually, otherwise you're not getting stuff.
It's not even that. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. All right. We've been doing this for a decade. A decade is a long time. All right.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, I am classically trained and have a degree in what is technically considered journalism with gaming attached. It's actually gaming from a social sciences perspective. So I am quite qualified for this field, with all due respect. Now, that's not to say you need a degree to do this. You don't. You just need to be able to write, okay? But of course, thinking critically always helps.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm mentioning that is because despite having an educated background in the field, despite having a decade of experience in the field, we have to, on a consistent basis, prove that we are worthy of getting code for review. And I cannot tell you how demoralizing this experience is on a consistent basis, because you will have these PR people who seem very nice on the surface, but they really just aren't, because they work on a very if we're buddy, pally, you'll get more than so-and-so.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite the fact that so-and-so's work ethic and quality are nowhere near as good as yours. Right? That's just reality.
That's what it is.
A part of it is business related. So what I mean by that is these are companies after all, locally, and they need to make money. So more often than not, they'll probably try and pick some sort of an influencer, which Edward and I just saw the other day for a campaign for one of the consoles, where this influencer who's never seemed to have shown an interest in games before, but has a massive following, is now all of a sudden promoting this console. And that's fine, but, where is the integrity behind that? Anyway, so what I'm trying to get at is that it's a constant fight to get any kind of content. Because a lot of people think, games journalists, you get games for free. No, not the case.
That's not how it works.
So, Vamers, we're very lucky, consistently does well. And we have quite a strict ethical policy, transparency policy, where we will not accept anything for reviews, with the exception of having to receive code. I mean, if you don't get code, how do you play? So that's not what I mean. Like, obviously, we have to get the game. I just mean, there's no monetary payment or this in lieu of a review. All right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we cannot say the same for many other publications in our industry and even globally. And as a result, we are often not approached for things because we point blank refuse. And we're very upfront about that. What I was getting at just now about relationships as well, a lot of PR people, and I don't know if this is a global thing or this is very much a local thing, but local PR, they keep doing this thing of, I'm going to favor my friends over those who can actually produce relevant, engaging, and quality content. Mm-hmm. And that then goes into what I said just now about influencers, is because often, you'll see this influencer get this thing. They'll do the literal minimum work behind it, if that, and they won't be asked for anything else. Whereas we have to put together physical reports of how well our site is doing, our social engagement, so on and so forth, consistently prove who we are before we can even get code. And then when we get code, there are expectations. So where this influencer maybe just sent out a tweet review about said game, we have to, within sometimes ridiculous 3 days, granted, we have told publications outright we need a minimum of 14 days with titles, 10 at the least, because, you want to review a game properly. You don't just want to do something rush. And so we'll sometimes be delayed, or maybe we won't meet embargo, because in South Africa, 90% of the time you get the game on the day of release or the day before, and it's just not possible to meet the embargo deadline.
Exactly.
And, we don't want to sacrifice our quality. Anyway, the whole point is there's this weird relationship aspect to it where, they will favor people over those who produce legitimate content. And the worst part about this is it's not just us who are impacted. We speak to people in this industry who have had very long-running and very successful websites, and they go through the same spiel. Exactly the same. So it's not easy. Does that mean you shouldn't try? No. What I'm rather just getting at is people who are interested in this need to understand the reality of the situation. It's not all bubbly fairies and roses and every company sponsoring you and paying you, because that just doesn't happen. Even for review, specifically for reviews, as we've said, you don't accept anything in lieu of, right? But sometimes a company will approach you and be like, hey, we have this product. Would you do an unboxing? Either a video or tweet about it or whatever the case is. And they still won't pay for that. There's actually an excellent video that MKBHD and is it Mr. Who's the Boss?
Yes.
Yep. Where they actually expose this practice. And it's an excellent video. We will link to it because it is well worth watching for anyone who's interested in even approaching these industries from a creator perspective. So understand that somebody who creates like MKBHD is not necessarily a journalist. That's very much a creator. But because he has an opinion on it, it kind of somewhat crosses over into that boundary ever so slightly. But I do feel there is a difference between being a creator and being a full-on journalist, much like how there's a big difference between being public relations and marketing, which is what I was alluding to earlier. They're totally two different fields. They're not the same thing, even though people consistently merge the two together. So yeah, misconceptions about this profession are that it's easy, that it doesn't require a lot of work, and that anybody can do it. Unfortunately, we hate to break it to you. It is being a journalist or a games journalist or any kind of journalist for that matter is a lot of work. It requires skill, talent, hard work, and dedication to get anywhere. And even if you've proven yourself, it's still a struggle.
It's a job like any other. We don't play games and complain just because we can.
Actually, sometimes, sometimes you don't even get the games to keep.
Yep.
That's the other thing. Granted, things have changed because of the pandemic, so everything's gone digital and digital code can't be returned. But I clearly remember a time when we were sent cartridges that had to be returned. So you don't even get to keep the game sometimes, y'all.
Nope.
Cartridges and discs. So just saying, just putting it out there.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. Edward, anything else you'd like to add?
In terms of my profession, no.
I would like to add something else.
I think we said it all.
No, I'd like to add something else to this discussion. And I don't know if this is very much a local only or if this applies abroad as well. Because I part of me feels it might just be very much a local only thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think that everyone knows everyone and is friends with everyone.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I hate to be the bearer of bad news because Edward and I we truly like to support the local industry. You'll find that we're some of the only people who will actually interact with and possibly share local content from other creators and publications. Unfortunately, most people are in it for themselves and will do almost anything to get ahead, including throwing you under the bus.
Yep.
We're not going to name names. We're not going to, shame people because that's not what this is about. This is really just a discussion about, what it is like in this industry. And it is also cutthroat. That is something I feel has to be mentioned. Because if it's not to do with relationships with people, it's got to do with your standing in the community. And if it's not your standing in the community, it's your return on investment. And most of the time, publications don't even bother with any of that because it's all around who the public relations agent favors. That is the actual reality of the situation.
Yep.
So not to be demoralizing about it or not to put, to shatter expectations, but this is very much an industry, much like any other, but that could in many ways also be far more difficult than many others. Exactly. I mean, as an example, if you're an accountant and you work in an accounting firm, you have the possibility of working up the ranks, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like now have to compete with other people in other accounting firms to go up the ranks. Whereas that is literally how it happens in our industry. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know enough about the accounting world, but I'm just trying to give like an example, Or we take a doctor, for example. Doctors aren't going to fight for patients. What I mean by that is like one hospital doesn't fight to get a patient from another hospital, okay? So that's actually a great example. Like if you're a neurosurgeon at hospital A and you're a neurosurgeon at hospital B and I don't want to say passenger. I would just say, but sickly person C goes to A instead of B. B is not now going to have a tantrum and try and do everything they can to get the sickly person away from A. But that happens in our industry.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah. With that said, we implore you all to try.
Yeah.
because
also
there are great things. Hey, I didn't want this to be wholly negative, okay? But the question was speaking about misconceptions.
That's
the misconceptions are that it's awesome and it's great and it's easy and you don't have to worry about things, but that really couldn't be further from the truth. More so. Exactly. Just quickly, I just want to throw this out there. We are friends with a lot of people in the industry, right? And a lot of them also struggle from a monetary perspective. And this is because companies, as we've mentioned before, often try to do things for free. and they will refuse to pay for like advertorials, or if they've sent you a product, they won't pay for like an unboxing video, which is not the same as a review, for example. So creators and journalists struggle to make money. They really do.
Pretty much.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't want to get into those, just like how companies are choosing their own e-commerce avenues to pursue instead of giving money to journalists to promote their titles and so on and so forth. It's very complicated going forward. But anyway, I feel I've said enough, and I've been quite. I did not want to be negative, but there is a lot about this industry that is not nice. But there is also a lot of positive stuff. But that's not what the question was about.
Yeah, see, the question is about the misconceptions, and it just so happens that if video gaming is involved, the misconception is largely positive. And that's not the case. That's all it is.
Well, rather, it's just far more difficult than a lot of people give credit to. It's a challenge. It's a consistent challenge. Like I said, we've been doing this for over a decade, and not a day has gone by where it's been easy. And that saddens me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Well,
Actually, yes, you're going to lead us into the next thing, right? Let's go into a bit of a happier topic, please.
Yes, let's do. I don't know how to segue this, actually.
You don't have to segue. Basically, Edward has shattered my texting life. Okay? Because he found, right, that allegedly British English, which is the only form of good English. Just putting it out there, Americans. Sorry, not sorry. When you write laughing, the ha 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 ha, okay?
Yeah.
It is HAHAHA without spaces. And this is killing me inside because I have, for as long as I can remember, written haha for laughing with spaces. And now Edward has told me that is the American way of doing things. And I just can't.
Well, actually, it's the colloquial way of doing things I've learned. So where this all stems from rather not the colloquial, the onomatopoeic way. Where this all stems from, and I'll get down to that in a second, is I was going through an old video on YouTube, just checking out someone's channel because they featured in another video, what. Anyway, and they replied with the two words, ha ha, okay? Which is an interjection. We all know it's an interjection. That doesn't change. But then Google and YouTube asked me if I wanted to translate that into the app, the language that I use in the app, which is British English. And the translation made it ha ha, but without a space. Okay, so that got me thinking. Okay, so funnily enough, for some background context, when I speak in Afrikaans, when I type in Afrikaans, I'll often use ha ha without spaces. When I type in English, I'll often use ha ha with spaces. I don't know, it's just a thing.
That in itself is just so strange, Edward.
I don't know, it's just, that's how I type. Anyway,
yeah.
So it turns out that, the Afrikaans way is the only correct way, I guess, I thought. So I went and did a lot of ass research on this because...
because we need to know, because Edward was like, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? How is ha-ha wrong? How?
Exactly. So I went through a rabbit hole, okay? And it seems like even the experts are mostly, I wrote dumbfounded, but that's not the correct term. That they're mostly torn up about the correct way of actually doing it. But there is a consensus. Okay, so first things first, the Oxford Dictionary, okay, that's the main daddy. That's the big dictionary we all always go back to. They say that the correct grammatical spelling is ha-ha with a hyphen. Okay, so not only have we always done it wrong forever, we had to add a hyphen in there, which we never did. According to Merriam-Webster, however, The term is actually actually originated from British English, which I guess we all knew.
Okay.
From the interjection haha without the hyphen, even though it has the hyphen now. Okay. And that it originated further from haha without spaces in French. Okay, so I think the first
you
use
really
of the word
are
is
taking us back. Wow.
I know that the first use of the word was haha in French in 18 something. I forgot the date now.
Was it for laughing? Was it for like, oh, ha ha ha, or was it something else?
I assume as much because that's how it's stated in the Merriam-Webster page.
Okay.
Okay, but then I went on Stack Exchange because you get lots of interesting questions answered from there. And one of the answers, so the question was, listen, am I typing it correctly? Is it ha-ha or ha-ha?
Yes, I need to know. Did I take the red pill or the blue pill? Like,
exactly. And the answer there, one of the answers was actually quite well put. And they mentioned that it's written with a hyphen in the Oxford Dictionary, but they also say that the word is written haha without spaces or hyphens when written when used as an onomatopoeia. Yes, which is basically a word to describe a sound. That's what that means.
So because you're describing the laugh, which is ha ha ha.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that answer also says that that's mainly an informal use of the word. Now, that got me thinking, if it's an informal use, why is this a question in the first place? So I went even further down.
Adrian, I'm so impressed with all of this right now. This is really great. Keep going.
Listen, if I'm obsessed, I'm obsessed, okay? I like going through rabbit holes. So it turns out that historically, the most prominent use of the term is actually to use it onomatopoeically. Okay, and just write it down as
makes
ha-ha,
sense.
Without spaces, without hyphens.
Without the hyphen, yeah.
Yes, and this was mainly thanks to Chaucer. Now, Chaucer was an author that came up a lot in my studies.
The American one, right?
Yes, the American author. He came up a lot in my studies and in my my language studies and my creative studies. So he's a fiction author and he wrote lots of non-fiction as well. And in the sense, he used the term haha whenever he literally wanted to convey that someone was laughing. And it was many of the times it was 3 ha's, not just the 2.
That's the way
so
that
it was ha ha ha.
I always do ha ha ha. Yeah.
I tend to put more ha's depending on how much I laughed in real life.
Well, I mean that too. But
so, however, Shakespeare, now the granddaddy of English fiction, he wrote it ha ha he. Okay. But with commas. So obviously he added his own flair. Yeah, like hee hee. That's
I was doing Michael Jackson, but okay.
I know you know. I know. And then, thanks to all of this, I found the most amazing New York Times blog post. I'm not sure if it's an actual publicized post, a feature post, or just a blog post.
Okay.
But this is a long ass post in which they go down the same rabbit hole I did.
Yeah.
And in this, they pretty much say all of the same things.
Yeah.
But they also say that the difference, the modern difference. Now, it must be mentioned that this was written in 2017.
Okay.
Now, they state that the modern difference between ha 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 and ha 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 without spaces is pretty much the difference between I'm dying laughing and listen, you're boring me immensely. I never want to have anything to do with you ever again.
Okay, so ha 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 with spaces is I'm dying laughing.
No, it's actually, I think it's the other way around.
Because you wrote
they
it.
don't state it.
Okay.
I wrote it the same way they wrote it in my notes.
But then it would follow.
Yes, it would follow, but I think it's the other way around personally. Okay. It doesn't matter. Because...
Okay. So what I wanted to say about the whole laughing thing is...
Okay.
I would imagine I'm dying laughing, as you've said, would be without the spaces. Because anyone who's laughed so hard that they're crying and they can't breathe knows there is no space for breath. There is no...
it's maniacal. It's
and you're like dying, okay? Whereas if you're like, ha ha ha, ha ha.
Okay.
Actually, I was like, before I came to that, not conclusion, but like one realization. And Edward was telling me this. I was like, no, but like, haha, without spaces is like a villain laugh. Like, ha ha ha.
It is a villain laugh. On paper though, because now that you just mentioned that, I'm thinking of my own laugh. And I laugh, ha 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 ha. I laugh like that. If even my
don't you go
voice,
ha ha he, ha ha he.
No, I don't go ha ha he. even the recording in Audacity, I can see when I laughed, it went like this.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much ha ha.
Well, I've been laughing this whole time, so I'm pretty sure anyone who's listening is going to be the ha ha ha.
I don't know. It's. Anyway, to round this all off, okay, the New York Times also states that the onomatopoeic way of writing it, not the grammatical proper interjection way of writing it, it's the superior way of putting it on paper, mainly because you can literally use it as you wish and in any form you wish. It's superior because you can lengthen it, you can shorten it, you can write it differently, like he or whatever. So, according to them, exactly, before they go off on a tangent about using LOL and ruffle mayo.
I was just going to say, you know what I was actually going to say? So, I'm not a fan of LOL, okay?
No, neither am I.
I don't like it. I don't like to use it. But, gosh damn, do I get why the youth are saying LOL instead of going down this rabbit hole?
Yeah,
I get How do you use haha? Who
exactly.
cares?
LOL is just so much better. It's like lol. It works.
Hold on. Have we had that discussion of how you don't use lol in the real world?
We have not, actually. As far as I know, we haven't. But I was going to say, one of the podcasts I listened to, the host, one of the three hosts in that one, uses lol out loud. And every time she does, okay, like she laughs in the podcast. But then while she laughs, she goes lol. And that annoys the shit out of me.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is purely a textual expression. That is not meant for actual verbiage. You are not meant to say that out loud. Like, if you can hear her laughing on the podcast, she doesn't have to
Why
go
would
lol.
she go lol? Exactly. So when she does that, by the way, every time she does that, I have a little niggle in my mind that goes, oh, so she faked that ass laugh. That was a fake ass.
The reason why I'm so glad that we were talking about this now is because I remember it was several years ago. It was at a wedding I was at. And at this table, somebody, I don't know, can't remember what it was, some joke. And it was hilarious. And we were all laughing. And the girl next to me lady next to me, without blinking an eyelid. She didn't laugh. She didn't laugh in the way that a person laughs, right? She just went, lol.
That's how you know that's fake. That's how you know she didn't enjoy the shit out of it.
Because I sometimes don't have a filter. So I literally turned to her and I said, what did you just do? And she was like, oh, that was really fun. And I said, if it was funny, why didn't you laugh? Why would you say lol?
Yeah.
And she was like, I thought, and I just looked at it and I was like, no. That's
okay. Look,
that is not a replacement. For laughing.
I mean, no offense, but she's a psychopath. Okay, not knowing anything about this person, I'm gonna say it outright. That's psychopathic.
Well,
behavior.
Needless to say, I'm not friends with the person whose wedding I went to anymore. So
okay,
it kind of all fits. Okay, those people are just not my people.
I take pride in the fact that I don't judge people for how they act, what they do, and what they wear.
If you be sitting at a table and somebody says something funny and you don't laugh and you go lol, you best bet I'm going to be judging your ass.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm going to look up and down and call it for what it is.
No. What are you going to sit there and go, STFU?
Yeah, GTFO, BITTH.
I mean, it's so silly because lol is laugh out loud, right? That's it. Oh no, it is laugh out loud, right?
Yes,
or is it
it's laugh
no?
out
Or is it
loud.
lots of laughter? It's one. I think it's lots of laughter. Oh,
I was taught that it's lots of laughter, but then the internet made me believe it's laugh out loud.
okay. Either way, it's a
So-
contraction for an expression. It is
Yes.
not a replacement for actually laughing in the real world. Okay, it's just not.
Like, why?
That's just how it is. This is not up for debate. Don't at us because you're wrong.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Like ruffle Mao.
It's ruffle mayo, Edward.
Oh, are we gonna have this conversation now? Like XD, XD, XD. Like,
Oh my gosh, please just stop. Just stop. I can't anymore. I can't. This is almost this is almost like what I imagine, you know, the future would be like if we had to breathe through our butts. Okay, because
oh my gosh.
I mean, because if you breathe through your butt, I assume then there wouldn't be any oxygen, so you wouldn't be able to actually be like lol or ruffle mayo. You'd have to text it out.
Then you would literally be laughing your ass off. because
yes.
like
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing the sound effects as well. Okay, so a bit of a poor segue there, but this is one of the topics I've been wanting to speak about for a couple of weeks now. And it really legitimately is breathing through your butt. And it is just as fascinating as it sounds. So anyone who knows sci-fi will be aware of movies like The Abyss or Interstellar, whereby, or even there's a whole, it's in science fiction, right? Whereby liquids can be used as another form of getting oxygen into the body. But normally what they would do is they would like the spacesuit would fill up with a liquid, and then that oxygen-rich liquid would go into your lungs. So you technically be breathing the liquid, all right?
oh,
If you get what I'm saying.
kind of like how the Koreans breathe in Mass Effect. That they
Yes.
live in suits filled with liquid.
Yes. So
Yeah.
it's that kind of a thing that I'm talking about here, right?
Yeah.
So in science fiction, it's been around for a long time. From the 80s, they've had this concept of liquid breathing. You know, so instead of using air, you use liquid, and that in is a way of allowing humans to traverse the stars, because you know, if you have a liquid that can be purified and renewed, you don't need to have oxygen canisters or tanks, or if you get what I'm saying and where I'm going with this, right?
yeah.
So what is most interesting about this is how scientists are actually conducting research into using your intestines as a form of getting oxygen into the bloodstream. So breathing through your butt.
So my first thought is, why?
So scientists, much like weirdly, and obviously I would imagine it's because the science fiction, you know, law that exists has given scientists today ideas of what you use it for. And one of those is legitimately space travel. I mean, think about it for a second. Imagine going to cryostasis and then having an oxygen enema. So this thing that just goes into your butt, and then you sleep, and then you don't have to worry about oxygen. So like if the spaceship half breaks apart or whatever, as long as the canister for the liquid is contained within your vesicle thing. Anyway, okay, why not through your lungs?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. So that's what you meant. Okay, so because Edward, if liquid go into your lungs, you will suffocate. So we definitely haven't gotten to that point where we have some form of a liquid that our alveoli could actually process.
Okay.
You will just suffocate to death. Okay,
Yes.
You will drown. You will literally drown. I mean, it only takes like a tablespoon of water going down the wrong pipe
Not
for you
even.
to actually start
Yeah.
choking. Yeah. So
You can dry choke as well.
oh
but-
gosh, don't even. Speaking about that, because now we're here now. So courtesy of
This is
COVID,
us.
courtesy of COVID, I imagine. I have literally over the last 2 weeks, and I've told you this, Edward, like choked on my spit so badly that it feels like my throat is closing, and I literally have to gasp for breath It is terrifying.
The thing is,
and that is my own effing mucus that my body is producing.
But the worst thing about that is you can literally suffocate from that. There are people who have drowned from literally nothing more than a little bit of spittle because their body goes into a panic.
Yes, I know this.
I'm
that's
not
kidding.
An issue.
When I tell you that it felt like my thing was closing, I was literally like, and my eyes were like watering, and I was like, is this how I'm going to die? After looking after everybody for 3 months, I'm going to die alone in my study, choking on my spit. I mean, anyway. So back onto the butt breathing. Back. According to these scientists who've been doing all of this research, things like sea spiders and catfish, for example, have developed the ability to breathe through their butts. And now science is like, well, if they're butt breathers, why can't we be butt breathers, right? So generally speaking, generally speaking, we know that the butt it's an exit way. It ain't an entryway for the most part. It is generally an exit. And anyway. It is very much an exit for human waste in the body and an entrance for pleasure. But we're not talking about that right now, okay? It's exit for waste product, okay?
Okay, yeah. That's it.
I have these notes here, and Edward just went and filled them in with aubergines, so eggplants for those who aren't watching. Anyway, now scientists are saying that it could also be an entryway with life-saving potential, okay?
Okay.
Edward, there we go. That's what the entryway is for life-saving potential.
Okay. I misread that.
Now, if you give it some thought, it makes sense. Like, we know that suppositories exist because you can actually, you put a suppository up there and your intestines do a really great job of absorbing it. It's actually quicker and easier to get into the bloodstream that way, much like the sublingual form of medication administration, which we spoke about a couple of episodes back, because of the mucus layers. So now, building up on that, it's got to do with the fact that our intestines have a mucosal membrane, right? Which helps with the diffusion of minerals and things between the intestines and then, of course, the blood barrier. Now, now that they've looked at this, and they've also realized that there's a lot of blood vessels in those areas, obviously, because digestion takes up a lot of resources and therefore oxygen. So the scientists were like, well, could we not use that on some level and maybe breathe through it somehow? Like why not? Let's figure it out. We can't do liquids through. We can't do liquids through your lungs because that's very, very dangerous, and you can't exactly try that. So what about through your anus? Because the intestines are geared towards absorbing nutrients from whatever is in there, okay? So they looked at this and they were like, okay, cool. It has a mucosal membrane, which is really good for oxygen dispersion. So what can we do with this? So they then went and tested this on mice, which is generally the case. There's always some poor animal that has to be, tested on. And they had 3 groups. They had a control group, a group with an oxygen catheter in the anus, and another group with the same catheter, but this time they actually scrubbed off the mucosal layer, which is very, very interesting. And I did some more reading, and it turns out that humans have that mucosal layer in their intestines, but some other creatures don't. It's actually mammals, not humans, but mammals. And what they found, which was really, really so interesting, is that the catheter worked. It actually worked. They administered oxygen through the catheter into the anus while these creatures were in an oxygen-deprived environment, and it worked. It helped them to stay alive. I mean, not just a small amount. I'm talking about that the control, the group that had the mucosal layer scratched off for even easier dispersion of oxygen, lasted 5 times longer than the control group, which had absolutely nothing. I mean, that's incredible if you think about it.
Yeah, it's just that it to me it sounds like still they're not getting all the oxygen,
Oh, look, of course. So, just remember, this was a very basic test. Okay, they just want to prove
if it's possible.
The concept. Is it worth further investigation? Because if it doesn't really work, then maybe not so much. But in this case, to get a 5-fold increase in the same oxygen-deprived environment is actually pretty incredible if you think about it. Given how this is not an ordinary source of oxygen in the body, because it all works through your lungs and so on. So it's an unusual means of doing it, but it's kind of working. Now, what's a little bit more interesting about this is that the liquid that I've been talking about the whole time actually has a name. And they call it perfluorodecaline. So that there's actually a legitimate liquid that they can actually insert into your bodies, and using like diffusion through the cell layers. I actually wanted to use osmosis because it's liquid, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to have that discussion. We'll just use diffusion for ease of discussion.
Yeah.
It really worked. They were able to get the CO2 from the bloodstream and put the O2 through it. And I think that's really amazing. And the fact that this has worked on both mice and pigs is pretty incredible, given how pigs have a very similar physiology to humans. And that's why they're often chosen to do these things. Anyway, more tests are needed. We will link to the awesome research below. And now I want to know, Edward, would you breathe through your butt? Given the option?
If it's been scientifically proven, I wouldn't mind. The question is, can you also breathe in bad oxygen, like when there is smog in the air and they just happen to, if you breathe in that, would that be worse for your body or better for your body versus breathing it in via your lungs normally? What do you think?
What do you mean?
Like if I go out now, I step outside and I breathe in the shit air, which is Johannesburg air.
Yes, relatable.
And I get the same quality of air into my ass, okay? If I had breathed through my butt, would it be the same levels of detrimental to me?
I see what you're saying.
Or would it be improved? Okay.
Let's assume we have something like 98% efficacy from one of these oxygen enemas. Okay, let's go with that. And this, you buy this thing from Dischem and you connect it to the enema. You shove it up your butt and you carry it with you. Okay. Is that better? So what you're asking is that better than walking around breathing the smog-ridden air? That's what you're saying, right?
No. So I'm asking if it had been the same consistency of air or oxygen, whether it's up top or below.
Okay, look.
Would my butt be able to process it in a better way?
My initial gut would say your lungs would still be more efficient, purely because that's what lungs are designed to do. That's their function.
I see. Yeah.
Okay. I don't really ever think. I mean, things could change. You never know. Right?
Yeah.
But I don't think you would get the same kind of absorption rate that lungs will provide through the anus. I think you could probably get to a good enough number whereby the body wouldn't asphyxiate.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I meant. So I think if I think of this from a practical perspective, I'd like to think space travel, whereby they put you into an induced coma where already your need for oxygen is reduced. Then they give you this enema and they put in an oxygen catheter into your rectum. Maybe it's possible that could give you a good, let's say 70% oxygen versus breathing. I mean, look, you'd still have to breathe on some level. You can't turn that function off. Well, unless maybe you medically turn off your lungs. I mean, I don't know how that would.
Yeah, like switch it off.
Like totally coma. But you can't. The heart would have to beat, right? I mean,
but the heart beats thanks to oxygen.
This is very okay. So now we're talking about like what Walt Disney apparently did, where they went into like ice. What's it called? Cryogenically frozen.
I thought they only froze his head.
Okay, I think that's a different discussion. So the way that I looked at it was more like let's assume we have short travel. Let's say 3 to 4 years. Then you connect the astronauts to all sorts of cables and stuff that gives the body nutrients so the muscles don't break down and that. Yeah. And then instead of having to breathe, they just have an oxygen enema. And that gives them enough oxygen to last 3 or 4 years without having to build extra oxygen tanks or purification filters into the rocket system, right? Or have them there as like backups, but they're not the primary source of oxygen while they're in a coma.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
I don't know. Look, either way, let science go with it. Who knows? You know, maybe
it could work out well.
Well, here's one. So my mom has been on an oxygen machine for over a month now. She's had to be because of COVID. I mean, I would almost say she would maybe prefer. I mean, imagine an oxygen suppository. Just imagine a pill you could push up once a day, and it keeps your oxygen levels above 90%. I think she would probably prefer that over having to wear the consistent
the whole thing,
the cannula, because it's actually shame. It's actually caused her like sores in her nose because it's been such a long time that she's had to use it for hours per day. But yeah, anyway, she's getting better, so we'll see how it goes.
Good.
So now, Edward, you were talking, like you alluded to anal lovemaking, and you all know that is the most effective form of birth control because you cannot fall pregnant that way.
No. The most effective form of birth control is not having sex.
Okay, sorry, you're right. Abstinence.
Pro-life tips with Edward.
With this birth control now on the mind.
Let's carry on.
There is an experimental birth control that's currently being developed at the moment, and it's for men. Like, finally, we can finally not have to always rely on the ladies to be the responsible ones, because y'all men can be douchebags, okay? You know, it doesn't feel
Let's be honest, though.
You know, I don't want to wear a condom. Like, please, man.
It feels better without one.
Exactly.
Like, don't be stupid.
Like, duh, we know, but you know what doesn't feel better? 30 years of support.
Yeah. Let's be honest, though, the people who come up with those kinds of excuses won't use this birth control anyway. Unfortunately.
Anyway, so there is a new form of birth control that's currently being experimented on. It's not for men. I've just made that mistake. It's actually...
No, the main one is already happening at a side. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Actually, yes. Okay. So there is a men's one that's happening, and I'm very keen for it. I feel I would happily take a pill a day if it meant that I wouldn't have to worry about anything else, you know. But of course, as Edward said, the most effective form is just not doing anything. But you know, people have needs and wants, so whatever. Now, what I'm actually getting at, and I have been slightly confused. I do apologize for that. It's actually not a male birth control. It is actually a new experimental female birth control. And once again, you're just like, why another one for the ladies? Like, you know, they really go through so much with, you know, hormonal, you know, like the pill that changes the hormones and so on and so forth, and these horrible contraptions that they have to push into the vagina. And it would very much be easier if we just had one. Okay? Anyway, the reason why I just want to speak about this today is because it's very dystopian. What is actually happening with the science behind this. And that is because this method of contraception, and I'm just going to give you the very quick just over it, you can go and read more about it, is it's using something called monoclonal antibodies, all right? Which mimic the antibodies in the immune system. And what they're doing is they're taking this fairly new technology, which is becoming quite widespread and cheaper to implement, especially in today's age versus like the 20 years ago, in order to modify the pH levels of the vagina in order to destroy semen. All right? Now, as a concept, it sounds awesome. But if you start reading into how these changes start applying and working, and of course, I'm not trying to flame some rumor mill or conspiracy theory or whatever the case is, but, you know, influencing hormones in the body to prevent the ovulating egg from attaching to the uterine wall is very different to starting to modify antibodies which exist in the human body to destroy something that shouldn't be destroyed in the first place.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that because, not evolution, but the possibility exists for this kind of tech to potentially malfunction. And what I mean by that is, let's say this thing goes out and through hundreds and thousands of tests, everybody's been fine, but then you get a small 5% of the population who are now sterile. And, you don't know. I mean, the research here and the technology showcases that technically these effects only last, I think it's up to 72 hours. All right?
Okay.
You take whatever tablet or you take whatever injection of these antibodies, and they go through and they prevent the sperm. They go through and they destroy the sperm. Okay, and it technically does wear off after a certain period of time. But what if it doesn't? Now, what is most interesting about this is, as I said before, this technology is not new. It's actually quite old, and there was a time where the World Health Organization actually wanted to invest in it quite a lot. This was way back in, I think, the 80s, and of course, technology has changed since then. But at the time, they actually stopped the research because they realized that it could have broader, more far-reaching consequences. And one of those being the possibility of making the users sterile. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for new tech. I think this has the potential to be revolutionary and fantastic and awesome. I mean, they're even using this to help fight off HIV, all right? So, it looks like it could really work, and the way that they do this is that they use either it's a topical contraceptive, so either you'd rub it on the penis or on the entrance of the vagina, or you'd use a patch that you'd stick on the inside of the vagina, right? And it sounds amazing, and it sounds like incredible. But, we have to be careful. As awesome as this sounds, the last thing you want is for there to be dire consequences which lead to a Gilead future, where all of a sudden most of the women population are sterile, or somehow one of these antibodies were used and it didn't leave the system. And then when, assuming these people reproduced, all of a sudden somewhere along the way, there's some sort of genetic change. And, there's more widespread concern for this kind of. Now, please understand, I'm all for new forms of contraception. If this works and they're able to get around those kinds of hurdles, by all means, fantastic, phenomenal. We can use it. We can do it. I just want to make sure that this tech that's coming back, because obviously technology today is more advanced and is cheaper, they don't override the concerns that were valid all those years ago either. Okay.
It's a weird one. Yeah.
So just to clarify again how this works is it destroys the sperm. So it doesn't do anything to the vagina at all. So like it would still work fine, and the lady can still ovulate and so on and so forth. It just renders the sperm impotent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really, I suppose, affecting their genitals in a way, but you never know, right?
It's like the genophage in Mass Effect. Yeah.
But that was
in a way.
I mean, that was like purposeful. They purposefully.
Yeah, that was purposeful, and it was mass genocide.
Look,
it's same thing.
I'm all for this. I need people to understand I'm for this. I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I want this to be done, and I don't want to make there be cause for concern or whatever the case is. I'm going to link to the article. Everybody should go and read it. Do your own reading. Go and read up about it. I think this is fantastic. I just want to make sure. I just hope rather that whenever they do that it is done the right way, and we don't have to worry about it. I mean, they actually have been using it to fight COVID-19. So, I mean, if they're already using it for that, who's to say it shouldn't work for this?
Exactly.
But I suppose, playing with reproduction is different. It's quite could be scarier.
Matter.
Yeah, it could be scary. Yeah. Also, just do one for men. Leave the woman alone already. My gosh.
There are enough birth controls.
That's like the big one maybe that I'm really getting at here.
Yeah. Gosh.
Anyway, with this dystopian future in mind, Edward found something which I thought was a little bit disturbing as well. Because if we're leading into a future where we no longer be able to reproduce, I guess this won't be a problem. Hey, Edward.
Exactly. The thing that I found, it's a few weeks old now, to be fair, but it's still very, very a worry. And that is the fact that, okay, number one, people aren't, younger people aren't allowed to play video games in China anymore. Like, I'm sure everyone listening to this would already know that. I think it was 2018 that China implemented new rules where the youth of China, that is the age of 18 and younger, weren't allowed to play more than, I think, 3 hours a week. And now they're only allowed to play on weekends and only 1 hour a day, every day, Friday to Sunday. So that's total 3 hours period. No more 3 hours a week in the weeks at all. But on top of this, now the Chinese media regulator, which is the piece of the part of the government which essentially dictates what is shown, what kind of media it's publicized, all of that stuff, they are now boycotting any reality TV, any reality show, because they don't believe in that, and also what they call sissy boy bands, if you translate it directly.
Is this like
now,
what's that big famous one at the moment?
BTS,
there we
for
go.
Instance. No, I think BTS is, I think they're Korean, but it's the same thing.
Okay, but what is sissy? Explain to me what a sissy is, because I don't understand what this is supposed to be.
The actual Mandarin translation is much worse. It's actually incredibly derogatory for like men who are effeminate, men who they don't look like big burly, I'm going to fight for my country.
Okay, I think that this is wholly stupid. I mean,
I think Asian boys are beautiful.
Asian people are beautiful. Never mind.
Just to put that on record, I think they really are. But now, when you are in a music group, an all boy music group or all man music group, sorry, you're a sissy now. That's what it comes down to.
So ridiculous. Now,
specifically, the Chinese media regulator calls this vulgar. It's apparently very vulgar to be in these kinds of groups, and they won't be showing those kinds and selling those kinds in China anymore. Essentially, killing off all boy bands.
This is just China's Communist Party.
Yeah.
Pushing their anti-LGBTQ agenda. That's basically what this is.
Yeah, so essentially what's happening now currently is that gay men especially, but more so men who show off effeminate
traits.
Life traits. Thank you.
Yeah.
They can't be hired behind the scenes anymore for a while now, and now in front of the cameras, those kind of shows and media just won't be shown anymore on TV.
This is
as well
ridiculous. Like, I know we were talking about like
ridiculous.
A dystopian future just now, but this is
is next level. Yeah,
sure,
it's bad.
Sure.
I just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, the little bit that I did hear about this was apparently there was that mega pop star who was just like erased overnight. She doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, she was an actress, and she is still an actress. It's not that she was, but in China, she's as good as non-existent.
She's nothing. She just disappeared.
And I'm not sure what the story is. I think it's because she acted in one or more movies which gave off these vulgar traits or something. But
it's so weird. It feels like China is still stuck in the 30s.
Oh, they very much are.
30s and 40s, and they're just not very progressive.
And it's sad. And I just thought I'd bring.
We're going to be on the China hit list now.
yeah, pretty much. Our FBI guys are really doing everything to protect us. Thank you, FBI guy and Kremlin guy. It's super bad. It's I mentioned the Kremlin. It's worse than what Russia is doing, which is just basically they're not banning or boycotting these kinds of things, but they're not actively promoting them either. Russia is. as much as they care about being the making their men look ideal, they don't care
this bothers me a lot, because we have spoken about this in a previous episode. What does it mean to be a manly man? What does that mean?
To I don't know, to work yourself to death in the office, I guess.
Here's a funny thought. Right? Not even a funny thought. Here's just a thought. For the last month, I have had to push aside all work and pleasure, all right, in order to look after my family. Because if it wasn't for me, there would be this. There was no one else. Okay, I had to feed, I had to bathe, I had to cook, I had to clean. So if we have to go via stereotypes, I became a housewife, right? For all intents and purposes, okay? Because I did the cooking, I did the cleaning, and I did the caring. In what way are those stereotypically feminine? To care for someone doesn't have a gender. There is no stereotype to look after someone, to care for someone, to show them love, to ensure that they're fed. There is no stereotype to that. So, what is their version of ideal? What? It's somebody who sits in front of the TV with a beer and just asks for food. Is that their stereotype of what it means to be a man?
Well, that's the Western stereotype of being a man. In Asia, it's much less sitting in front and drinking a beer and more slaving away 23 hours a day in the office kind of thing.
But again, it's office work. So that would be like me being like, oh, well, you're sick. Oh, too bad. I'm going to go and do my 9 to 5. And when I get back, if you're still alive, so be it. That's do you see why I'm getting very angry about this?
Thinking.
Yeah. Of course it is. Because, what is so frustrating with stereotypes, especially the Western ones and those Western ideals of manly man and feminine woman, whatever the case is, right? Is that they've attributed sex to certain activities. Like how cleaning and cooking is meant to be a female thing, and fixing and working is meant to be a male thing. But they're not. Knowing how to cook and clean goes just as well as knowing how to fix and shoot, for example. They're just life skills. If you know how to cook, you can feed yourself. If you know how to clean, you know how to prevent infection. How are these gendered? It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. This ridiculous. Is quite a irritating and upsetting topic.
It is. It's super frustrating.
And I feel very passionate about it because let me tell you, y'all, I make a fantastic house husband. So any rich ladies out there who want a toy boy,
any sugar mamas,
I'm your guy. Sugar mama, I'm your guy. I can cook, I can clean, I can do really good things, and I'm available.
So you've been told, Hans, okay? Do you have references?
Well, apparently all I need is the sun. Hey, Edward.
Yes, apparently you do. So, new studies, going directly into this topic, which I am so unprepared for.
It's fine.
New studies.
Give us the brief overview and we'll link to it as always. Look, all I see is as I mentioned like 2 weeks ago, right? The sun will make you sexy. Now I get this from getting a tan. So I want to know now, what else am I missing from this?
Yeah, so essentially we now have scientific medical proof that ultraviolet rays directly lead to sex.
Say what now?
Okay. So, and not in the way that just go bask in the sun and you'll orgasm all over yourself or something.
If only.
Right? Like, hey, if that's your kink,
hey,
fine.
if I gotta get my Tinder today, hey, so be it.
You don't have to even do anything. So, researchers from the Tel Aviv University in Israel, they have linked that defensive proteins in your body, the proteins in the skin, protecting your DNA, from being damaged by sunlight, have direct influence on your sex drive. In other words, your exposure to sunlight makes you want to pump the day and night away.
It says here, exposure to sunlight related directly to passion.
Yes.
Is this why, like, people in UK are more depressed?
That's exactly a thought I had.
Could this be the real impact of sun? Which is what I think that's what they call it, right? The lack of sun or something. Oh,
the real British, not cancer, Edward. The real British curse. That's the word I was looking for. Yes, and I think you're correctly right.
Because when you started telling me about like the UVB and the UVA and that, I was like, damn, because it's going to be a fine line between looking like leather and getting your pomp on.
It's still a very fine line, Hans. So we're digressing, but what these researchers essentially did is they were assessing the P53 levels in bodies and what kind of therapies they could use to improve those kinds of levels. Now, I'm not sure what exactly that means because that's not what this is all about. What they did find, though, was that ultraviolet radiation B, which is essentially just sunlight, that had an immediate effect on P53 levels and on these protein levels that I mentioned earlier. And what they did after that is that they conducted a three-stage study, which basically showed that UVB, which is ultraviolet radiation B, had dramatic changes to hormone levels where it rose significantly in females. Now, I think they studied rats and mice. Again,
I was just going to be like, yeah, this is why your lady got to get some sun.
Yeah.
You want to get lucky, get some sun,
Well, that's the consensus.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone has always said. Just
I see here what you're talking about, right? So you were saying that. So remember, I was talking about the damaging of the DNA, right? So
yes,
I find this fascinating. So I know that UVB, UVA damage your DNA. That's just, and they create free radicals, and it's really bad for your skin, and so on and so forth. But I see here that in particular, the one that you're actually talking about, this P53, which I keep reading as PS3.
So do I.
Is a unique protein that actually stops your DNA from being damaged by sunlight. Now, I'm looking at that already, and I'm thinking of, whoa, let's get more P53 into my body because, you
would think that, but in the second stage of the study, after they already blasted the mice with UVB, the second stage they've blasted them. But they removed the P53 hormone, which is literally the protective hormone in your body. Turns out that there was no change in hormone levels after they did this.
Fantastic. Give me some P53 lotion. Rub it on. Get some... Hey? I mean, think about that. It's like amazing.
That's literally it, Hans. You're kidding, but that's literally the conclusion. Now, in the third stage, though, they followed this with human samples. And obviously, it all came down to the same conclusions.
Yes.
I want to mention, though, that it was such a small sample that it was 32 people. Only 32. So that was tiny.
It's inconsequential. Yeah, it's not.
Yes.
Yeah,
but of the people, 32 were questions. And among those, both genders, I made a point of bolding that in my notes, both genders described a rise in romantic passion after they were blasted with UVB.
Okay. So maybe UVB is better than UVA, right? Because UVA is the one that everybody talks about that's really bad for you.
That's the one that kills you, yeah.
Yeah. This is really awesome because since living in Durban for over 6 months, a couple of months back, I still have a tan. You know that. I still have a bit of a tan, which didn't really go away.
I can still see it. Yeah.
I actually, every couple of days, will sit in the sun for about 20 minutes. And I love it because I always feel so good afterwards. And not good, like Edward is talking about here, but
like sexy good.
I feel good. Like I feel nice. Like that warmth on your face. It's so lovely. So now to know that you can get your rocks off, your socks off. Oh, actually, no, keep your socks on. Don't forget, keep your socks on.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
This is awesome.
Rock on with the socks on.
I like this.
And the thing is, no, this was all before we only had ideas. The professional Climate Levy and her team, it was only an initial study.
Yes.
Since then, this have been peer-reviewed and published in the Scientific Journal of Cell Reports, which that officially makes this a theory, not a hypothesis anymore. Okay. It's a theory now, a medical theory. And since then, I just had a quick read on Google. Since then, the idea now is, or rather the goal now is, how to remove UVA and only get UVB into the skin. Because UVA is the one that
blocks UVA and B.
Yes, unfortunately, sunblock, as good as it is for you, it doesn't give you this added UVB properties now.
That is okay. Wow. Okay, so basically,
that's the whole
everyone who suntans is not getting any benefit because your sunblock blocks both A and B.
Yes,
and all of the
sunblock
others.
Just blocks all the sun rays.
Oh, that is so interesting. That is fascinating.
Now, obviously, sunblock always says, it blocks all the harmful sunrise and you can still get a tan.
Yeah.
But you should know that getting a tan with UVB or UVA, it doesn't matter. You'll get the tan because of your exposure to the sun, not because of the ultraviolet rays hitting you.
No, but you will get wrinkles.
Yes, that's very, very true. You will get wrinkles. So the end goal is essentially how making this all balanced.
What I'm seeing in the future is UVA, UVB for your face because you want to protect this because this aging is very difficult to reverse. But then just get a UVA block for the rest of your body and absorb those delicious UVB rays.
And then you can go on your honeymoon, lay in the sun, and know that those kids are coming. Essentially,
no pun intended.
Exactly. So
that's awesome. Wow, that was great, Ed. I'm glad we finished on a bit of a high note because we kind of had like a bit of an intense middle section there.
Yeah.
We went from breathing in your butts to like yay sun sex.
Yeah, essentially, it was like this. And then like this, and then like this again. Well, it was a roller coaster, but it was good.
Great. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Ed. I think this is the longest episode we've had in many weeks, which is quite obvious that things are a little bit better on my side, that I'm actually able to do this, which is really good. But other than that, to all of our wonderful people who have been listening, thank you for listening all the way through to the end of Get 74, Season 2, Episode 32. And hey Ed, this was alright. It was good. I enjoyed it very much, and I hope we have a wonderful week ahead. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, Ed, and our listeners.
Yeah, I hope I do as well, Hans.
I don't have anything else that I want to say. I have no preview content for next week because we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, we'll just speak if we need to.
Because every time I promise that there's going to be something, we end up diverting. So I'm just not going to say what I think is coming because. Yeah.
Let it just be a surprise.
Yes. Even for us, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. We hope you all have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you once again so much for listening, for writing in. We always adore hearing from you all, and we hope that you will be well, and we look forward to seeing you for Season 2, Episode 33. Cool?
Yeah.
Cheerio. Bye.
Bye.